Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the 13th Fleet After Action Report. I am your host, Chris. I am glad that you guys are joining us today. We are going to have a really great show. We're going to be talking about the tournament that we just had yesterday. Odd having it on a Sunday, but it worked out really well. We had a really great turnout. We'll get into that here in a few minutes. I also want to let you know that the video is still available on Twitch, so you can actually check out that. It is unedited video, so you're not going to get to see builds or anything on that. I'm getting that ready. We're going to get that on YouTube, but unfortunately, normally I have a day after an event that I can use for editing and everything, but with 4 rounds and not having a day, I just started my new job today, so I did not have time to do any of the editing. It is probably going to be Saturday before you see video up on YouTube on that. But we did have a really great event, and I want to welcome the crew that helped bring it to us, as well as the winner of the event. So first up, we want to say congratulations to you, Nick.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We
Had
also
a lot of fun yesterday.
We also want to thank Garrett for getting everything together. He was the one that got everything behind the scenes put together so that we could play the event there at Chaotic Good yesterday.
Thanks, guys.
And then we have Reuben, who, since he already had his world invite, he was gracious enough to judge so that all of us could play and take our shot at getting the tickets. So thank you for that, Reuben.
You're welcome.
So was this your first time judging an event?
No, I've judged a couple of 8 to 10 man events locally at the Rusty Scabbard, which is another game store here in Lexington. But this was my first actual store printed kit AMG thing, world level stuff. So
Yeah, this is our first I'd say real one.
legitimate actual tournament thing.
Yeah, we had a bigger turnout than I expected. How many people ended up actually showing up?
18 before drop.
Yeah.
Okay.
18, and we lost one after round 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And we had a couple drops last minute too.
Which for a first time Lexington store championship in legit since 2019, I think. Pretty exciting. So
Massive
it's been a whole long time since we've had one, because Louisville has stores that were doing it since 2015, but now it's exciting to see Lexington has taken over. Yeah.
Did we have that turnout at Miso's?
I think it was exactly the same.
I think
Okay.
it was
Yeah.
18.
18.
20, then 2 drops, day of,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the same crowd.
Yeah,
Maybe
it was a lot of same
maybe
people.
8 different people, but a core 12 of locals.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were some folks that did some traveling, correct?
Yeah, we had 3
Yeah.
from Atlanta area.
One from Wisconsin.
Yep, Rob from Wisconsin, who I think was top guard. He got, I think, second or fourth.
Yeah, he
or
was
something,
top guard.
third place. And then there might have been more that I just didn't know about. That just
I
didn't.
think we had a South Carolina.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe Mike was. I think maybe they were just talking South Carolina, but and then we had a lot from Ohio. So the people from Ohio drove 2 to 5 hours, depending on how far they're driving. So still a long ways.
Well, it was a good turnout, and I think everybody had a really good time. There may have been a couple of small issues here and there, but I don't think you can get away with having any kind of event that size without having 1 or 2 hiccups there.
Yeah. No, we had a crazy diverse selection of factions. Because our Louisville championship, everyone was Empire. There was 3 Clone Wars, 2 Rebels, and the rest were Empire.
Yeah.
Anything?
This time the Empire was on the evenly 5 of them, I think.
I think there was 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Were you the only one that was running the SSD there?
This time, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 1 SSD, no onagers. Which is interesting to see.
And I just flew my general purpose fleet, which did really well. I'm actually feeling very good about the way that I flew. While I had one game where it was a really lopsided win as far as the score was concerned, I still felt like I was in that game. up into the last moment, and just a couple of dice rolls here or there would have made a huge difference.
Yeah, which is what makes it exciting. Right?
Yeah.
A couple red dice can really change how things turn out.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, I mean, Chris, you did great again. Chris is like our local news guy, and like each time he plays, he gets better and better. So Chris, I'm really proud to see you like improve more and more, especially with like running
so
Quasar,
fast.
Marty, or Quasar, Jerry, and ISD. Like, I mean, you're doing
Squads,
great.
yeah.
And
It's-
your
that's
it
high
was
level
your
stuff.
second tournament,
Third tournament.
third tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and
going-
it's like playing like really good people because we have really good selection of talent that come to these.
You got a
things.
rough draw that event.
Well, you know, it was kind of. I had a 7-4 win on my first game, and that kind of bumped me up in brackets, and so I had some, and that 7-4, there was some luck involved in me getting that because I just absolutely one roll obliterated. It was it an MC-80, the torpedo frigate.
MC-30.
MC-30, yeah. I just one shot wiped it out with the front arc from the ISD, and that kind of just made the game lopsided from that point on. So, but what about your experience there, Garrett? How were things? I didn't even get to actually see what was going on with anybody else. I was so focused on my own experience.
Oh, I had a pretty good time. Round one, I played Damon Santos. He's really good. And he had, I think it was like 11 CIS fighters.
Yeah, I faced him, and he was the one that I had my lopsided defeat against.
Yeah, and luckily I had a equally horrible Galactic Republic squad ball, and so it was just kind of punching each other in the face with bricks. And we ended up, I think it was like a 16-point difference at the end of it. So basically, 5-6 tie. He got the 6, and then my second round, I got to play a newer player, and I did really well points wise from that. And hopefully they learned a lot from that game. And then my third round, I played another GAR player, Rob from Michigan, and he had 2 spats and just a chonky Victory Star Destroyer build. And unfortunately for me, I don't have any big dice pools in my list. It was all like bomber base, basically. That's where my real damage comes from. And he was also running the Evil Deltakin Ahsoka Axe combo that I had. And let me tell you, when those two things meet in the middle of the table, everything stops. So I prolonged getting spatted by his 2 ships as long as possible. But his Anakin was able to like decimate my Arc 170s in like 2 turns, which that's 21 hull points, plus my axe and Jedi. But I eventually got rid of his squadrons and took his victory down. But he also had Bail Organa, so he was doing engineering commands to heal, and he had auxiliary shield teams on it, which adding those extra shields to the side are great. And he had Adi Gallia, which lets him decide which whole zone is treated getting attacked. So he would like switch it to the whole zone with the most shields left is the one actually getting attacked, which is really useful to prolong the life of that victory, because it's basically like pretending the shields are elsewhere.
I was getting ready to say I've heard a lot of bad mouthing about victories, and I've not really seen a lot in the Republic, so I was kind of curious as to if there was a way to make it good.
Now the downside is it has no defensive retrofits. So if it meets something like Nick's SSD that can throw like 10 or 11 dice at it, it's done. It's over.
Yeah.
There's no saving it. There's no bracing. It's gone. So, but when I'm trying to do chip damage at it, and it can regenerate a couple of those chips each turn, it's pretty good. So he did really well against me. I got almost tabled, except my Mercy mission made it, and most of my fighters survived. But like he got my Venator and Pelta, and that's a lot of points. So, and he had contested outpost, which was 120 points, because I could not, for the life of me, get his ships off that point. So he did great. And then my last round was against another CIS. I played Dooku twice this game, and the shenanigans of like
I hate Dooku.
Dealing with raid tokens is like really annoying, because I have a squadron fleet, so I'm like constantly like playing with when I'm getting tokens to get rid of that token to do my command, etc. So I mean that was another good thing for me, and I came in like 6th, which isn't that great, but not in the top 4. But our hero here, Nick, we've been telling him forever that his list is foolproof world's ticket, and it finally came true.
Finally
came through.
6 months later.
And we have a picture of the trophy sitting up next to you.
It's absolutely. He had 982 points of margin of victory. Which let me tell you, that's a lot of points. If anybody's wondering, that is a metric ton of points. That is double the points I got, almost.
I only I don't think I tabled Jason. I think his hard still survived, but I had everything else, and then I tabled my 2 other games. So I mean, it was all or nothing.
Yeah, which is because you don't have any sports chips. You're just the SSD. So if you lose the
SSD
SSD
and a Gazanti, yep.
Yeah, you lose everything.
Yeah. So I'll talk about my games if you want.
Yes, absolutely. We want
to
hear the conquering hero. Okay.
So one interesting thing for me was I played all 4 factions yesterday. So my first game, I played Jason's Separatist fleet, and I picked his Doom Station. So he was really focused on getting to the station, which made it really easy for me to just go forward. And then with the super, there's just not much you can do when it just gets that front hull. So I went forward.
Your combo, like the combo of the dice.
Oh yeah. So
damage output.
What I was running the Assault Prototype SSD with Jerry, which lets me get those really good turns in. So I could try to get a good double arc in. What I do is I'm running Palpatine, Governor Price, with Overload Pulse and local fire control. And so my opponent, when you get in my front arc, I throw, and with Ravager, of course, QBTs. I mean, the entire upgrade list is like working together. So you get in range of me. If you're going fast and speed 1, because I'm always going speed 1, I get to add in the blue die. I Ravager it in an extra blue die. SW7s means all my accuracies I don't spend count as damage. And then I always use Price to get my blue crit. So I go first, hit his Providence with Overload Pulse, exhaust all his defense tokens. If he wants to salvo me, he has to spend the salvo. It triggers before I Overload Pulse, but he spends the salvo, but then the crit effect happens. And then if he has to resolve the salvo attack, so he has to spend a defense token. And then on his activation, if he wants to shoot, he has to spend another defense token, which they're all exhausted. So he's burning them. And then if he wants to double arc, which a Providence loves to do, a second defense token. And of course I have a salvo, so he's also getting return fire on the shots. And so and then of course I'm basically stacking up engineering dials because I have Jerry to navigate. And so I'm getting 3 shields back. I'm pushing 6 shields from the rear to the front, which is typically what happens the first couple of rounds. You do like 10 damage to me, duplicate brace tokens. I have duplicate redirects. Take it all on shields. Next turn, I push 6 shields to the front, and I do it again. And so his Providence lasted, I think, 2 turns, maybe 3, because he was just Tambor engineering. And then, but his Recusant came in, which once the Providence went down, his Recusant came in, and the Recusant melts immediately, which is crazy because you look at a large base with 4 shields, 3 shields, 9 hull, and then I go, okay, you're going to take 12 damage. You can't redirect it because of XI7s. You have no brace token because I got an accuracy, and all my extra accuracies are going to be damage. So just drill through it.
Your blue dice, so like for new players, once you have SW7s, your blue dice always hit. There's no accuracy, there's no wasted dice. It's all damage.
Yep. All
damage. XI7s, they can't redirect like he says. So if you get hit by the front arc of the thing at medium range, you're taking 10 plus damage. Guaranteed.
It's 11. It's 11 dice with QBTs and Ravager. 11 dice with Price flipping a red to a double. All my blues are damage. I mean, it's easy. I think I did the same thing to Ryan in my next game. I did 12 damage, and he was like, "Hold on, let me see that. Let me count the dice."
I want you to feel bad about yourself.
I didn't feel bad at all. No.
True Imperial.
I've lost so many games. I was running the Onager for a while, and people were saying the Onager was busted, and they hated seeing it. And I was like, I get squad balls in my side arcs. I get MSU fleets come behind me, blow up the Onager all the time. If I kill something with it, I didn't feel bad about it. The SSD was kind of similar. It would get blown up, especially Garrett. Garrett, we played a lot of games one-on-one, so Garrett really knew how to fly against it. So
thermals and squads are the counter, like hard,
yeah,
but like squadrons themselves are the counter. So if you know how to like not get hit more than once, you can beat it. But like if he gets you in medium range, you're dead.
Yeah. So Jason didn't have a good time because he lost both his largest, and I just sat in the station. He could, yeah. So then I didn't table him, but I got over like 340 points. And then so my second game was up against Paul, who's running his Victory, kind of like MSU almost fleet, the Victory, a Raider, and Demolisher Gladiator with some squadrons. And so he was kind of nervous about the SSD because he doesn't have anything tanky that can really like go toe to toe with it. And of course, the objective flip is I'm picking first player, so I'm picking his objectives. And so whenever I see advanced gunnery, I take advanced gunnery. So the problem with that is the super has 9 dice in the front, and if you give me multiple targets, I'm killing multiple targets. And so in one round, I think on turn 3, he lost both the Raider and the Gladiator, both fresh, basically, just pop. And then I turned around, his Victory came in, and even with the double tap for advanced gunnery, it just wasn't enough damage. He got close to killing me. He got me to 15 hull points out of 22 on the super. So he was getting close, which is, 7 damage is still a lot of damage, but he just couldn't weather it. He couldn't weather the return fire from the super, just getting with advanced gunnery. I think on the final round, I had a double arc out of my rear, because he was behind me. So I had like my auxiliary rear, or my rear and my auxiliary side. And so I had my advanced gunnery shoot twice. I had 2 different hull zones, and then I had a rear shot. So I was able to hit him 3 times in that last round. And that was all that took, because he had his early warning systems could only cancel 1 die. And I said, "You're going speed 2, right?" So he was canceling 1 die. I was adding 2 dice, so even my rear shot was like 6 dice.
Yeah.
So it was just
I was watching that game, and the AG pick was immediate. It was scary.
Yeah, he showed me objectives. I went 1, 2, 3, advanced gunnery.
Yeah, Nick dreams about it. He dreams about
I
AG.
know. I don't get to play very often.
Because everyone asks him why he never takes gunner teams on his SSD, and it's always because people put advanced gunnery in their lists or their decks.
It shows up, yeah. So yeah, people are like, "Oh, you should take gunner teams. It's so good." I'm like, I know, but you still can't shoot the same ship twice. And a lot of times, I'm trying to kill one ship, so I focus my fire on one thing. Gunner teams be nice here and there. There are games definitely where I could say like, "Oh, I would love to be able to shoot twice right now," but when somebody has advanced gunnery, it's an easy pick, because I blew up all Paul's ships, and so I got the table, but then I also got the bonus advanced gunnery, and he got the half points for the super. That was all he was able to get, and so that was another brutal win. And then my third game, I went up against Ryan playing his Radis Rebel list.
Enemy of the podcast.
Ryan and I played before. He blew up my super at was Indianapolis, I think, and in a very similar way. So I knew after that game, after my last time playing Ryan, I changed my list up a little bit to better prepare for his Overload Pulse boarding troopers shenanigans, and it almost worked, but it didn't work.
I was there for that too.
It didn't work. So and just for context, so what Radis does is he puts his Admiral is on his MC-80 Liberty Star Cruiser. He flies forward, and at the start of the second round, he drops in the Profundity MC-75, which has the title Profundity, which allows him to also drop a CR-90 that has Overload Pulse. And so he can put them wherever he wants it has to be, as long as the plastic from his Liberty is touching the plastic of the MC-75, at distance 2, which is a few inches, he can make it legal. So it can be like corner to corner up here, and he can turn it however he wants. And then Profundity drops the CR-90 wherever he wants at distance 1 or 2.
Wow.
So he just lines them up with double arcs right in front of the super. He's first player because he bids for first player. He hits me with overload pulse. I took damage control officer, so I could contain critical effects. So I contained the overload pulse. He had a second shot with a confire dial. 3 blue dice. He gets an accuracy and a critical. And he had, I think maybe he had a confire token for fixing, but he didn't have a lot of dice fixing, so he had to roll an accuracy and a critical. He got it. So overload pulse triggers. I can't stop it. Then I'd activate my super and tried to turn as hard as I could. I overlapped an asteroid to try to get away from the profundity because it had boarding troopers. And we had to get Judge over there. We all spent about 7-8 minutes with the close range ruler. It was barely sitting corner on plastic to plastic. It was, and we were sitting there checking the rules. Like we were all like, we all sat down and we're like, okay, plastic to plastic is that a legit measurement for boarding troopers? And because it doesn't say hull zone, you measure plastic to plastic. And so like you could, I don't even, within, yeah. So I don't know if you could even have let go of the range ruler. It was so close. And so he triggered boarding troopers and burnt my brace tokens, one of my redirects, I think, and then he got the fire. And so I had no brace tokens. He was just accuracy in my salvo and my other redirect, and then all of his list was just drilling into the side of it. And once you can't brace anything with a super, I mean, it doesn't take a lot. It still takes a lot, but it doesn't take a lot to do like 25 damage. And then he had a Slicer Tools GR75 that came in, and so my engineering dial got switched to a navigate. So I couldn't repair or move. I had 6 shields on my far side, and I couldn't move them. And so he just kept drilling into the side of it with no shields. I couldn't redirect anything. I'm taking critical effects, and he's ramming me. He actually killed a CR90 from ramming because he rammed me once, took damage. Then he rammed it with the profundity, took a damage, and then he rammed me again and took a damage, and then I just shot it and killed it at one hole.
Man,
and so it was such a close game.
I feel like it doesn't seem too bad when you need that engineering command all of a sudden.
Yeah, sure.
I feel like there were a lot of those close range calls because I know I had to call Reuben over twice for mine.
I had one rock that was literally, I took a damage card and put it on the shield dial to see if it clipped the cardboard. That's how close it was.
Oh,
I had
man.
4 that were that close, like plastic to plastic, barely in kind of things.
Wow.
Yeah,
so Ryan blew up the super, so he got the table. I blew up a little bit of stuff, but it wasn't enough, and so he got the 10-1 on me. So that was a Separatist player, Imperial player, and a Rebel player. My last game was a Republic player. Andrew had brought 4 Peltas with, was it 5 Arc 170s and then Ahsoka Anakin Axe? Or it was 4 Arc 170s and a Y-Wing, I think. And then Axe Ahsoka. Yeah, Axe Ahsoka and Anakin.
Deltakin, Ahsoka Axe, 4 Arc 170s and a Y-Wing.
Yeah, and he had Yularen, which lets you activate 2 squadrons with a token, and he lets you spend engineering points to repair your squadrons. And so, I think I don't remember who it was. I was talking to somebody earlier in the tournament, and he wrecked them. The Arc 170 was just they couldn't stop him. They were getting healed. He was just pushing them because all of his Peltas had fighter or 3 of his Peltas had fighter coordination team, and 1 had bomber command center.
Yep.
And so he just pushes this wall of squadrons with combined 40 hull that are all 2 dice bombers, and then they reroll when they shoot. And so I wasn't too worried of it because his Peltas can only go speed 2. He had to have them in close range. He didn't have boosted comms. That's the thing that got me. I was like, okay, so he doesn't have boosted comms. He's got fighter coordination, and he wants to command them. So he has to be flying in a formation with his arcs. So I was like, I just need to make sure I'm leading him, and he won't be able to escape me. And so he kind of split his deployment up. So I actually kind of janked towards his lone Pelta, and I got a long range shot on it with just 4 dice, and I ended up doing 4 damage to it, no brace token, no evade token, I think, or something silly because that's what I was doing. And so even through like a long range shot, I killed shields on the side and did like a damage to the hull. And then on the next turn, I nav dialed with Jerry, sped up to 2, and did a double click with the Super Star Destroyer. So I was facing slightly, like almost like pretty much close to straight, just like one click in from the straight on the board edge to all the way around, like horizontal to the table. So his 3 peltas coming in were kind of like just coming in slowly, just doing their clicks. He took tokens, I think, with everything on turn 1, so they didn't like double click or speed up or anything. They're just all coming in a formation, and then the super was just in front of them. And so the next turn, it was first pelta died, and he was like, "So this is how it's going to be." And then his arcs came in. I was running quad turbo laser cannon, so I had counter 1 on my super against squadrons. So every arc that came in tried to bomb, I was throwing dice back at. I had Vader and Tell there to kind of tie up some arcs and like do some damage, and then I didn't have other good shots, so I was just flacking out my sides. And with flak guns, I was throwing double black, and so it was like double black on like 4 generic Arc 170. It was just like 2 damage, 2 damage, 1 damage, 2 damage. And then when they shot me, it would be 1 damage back, 1 damage back. And then if one was damaged, I would salvo and throw 2 dice at it. And so like I think one more Arc 170, I flacked it for 2, countered it for 1, and then salvoed it for 2 more. And it went from 7 to 2. And he was like, I can't attack you. I have to fly away. Like I can't. And so every turn it was a pelta and then a pelta and then a pelta, and I was just flacking the sides, and his other pelta was coming back around, and I just slowed down, and so he was going speed 2 because he was pushing his squadrons, and I had my pass token. I've been saving all game, so I just passed, and he had to fly into range of my rear hull, and I had Vader there. Well, actually, Vader was just killing arcs, but he was at speed 2, I was at speed 1, and I had a Gazanti to delay activation. So I would just delay, he had to fly closer to me, and I would just hit him with the rear. Delay, he had to fly closer to me, I would just hit him with the rear, and it killed the Pelta. And so final round, I got the table on him as well.
I mean, it's fantastic performance. I applaud you, sir.
It was yeah, everybody, as much as frustrating as it sounds, everybody had fun, as far as I could tell. You know, like especially that last game, Andrew, we were laughing, like we were both like just, he was like throw the die, like because he was watching he was watching his peltas evaporate, because it was just like at close range I was throwing 11 dice at a pelta, you know, into its side hull, and so he was like, how much you doing? I was like, it's gonna be 10 damage, no brace.
Ow.
And he was like, all right, and it's dead. So, but I think a lot of people don't see the super as often as you used to, and so when it gets on the table, a lot of times it's like maybe your first game in a long time since you've flown against it, and so people see it and there's like, what can it do? And so when it does, you get that medium range front hull shot, and like you're like, oh, it's only like 2 die, it's only 1 die, like base pool, it's only 1 red die more than, right? But it's all the upgrades on the ship, and then like you add in like the QBTs, the Ravager, the XS. I mean, it's all the upgrades, right? So like when it hits you with 11 dice, and then it says you can't redirect, I can flip dice whatever I want. You know, it's just all that drills in, and you go, I'm gonna take. Okay, hold on a second. Hold on. So you're blocking all my defense tokens, and I'm still taking 8 damage.
Right. Well, I think the biggest, like, XI7s, everyone praises LTTs, and I agree, LTTs are amazing. Anti-squad, reroll red. But XI7s on a ship that has 7 or more dice, yes.
Yeah.
Because then everyone's redirect tokens are useless.
Yeah.
Unless you're like on, what's it, the MC30 with Admonition or Foresight or whichever title it is.
Yeah.
And that's like one list that you'll probably encounter, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I became a believer in XI7s this tournament. I am so very, very glad that you pushed me in that direction, because they did some work. Yeah.
Yeah, it really and with the combination with SW7s, I think is so nasty, because a lot of ships have like duplicate redirect tokens, and it used to be like, you know, if you're running like LTTs or like more like what we used to kind of run or see a lot, you know, you're doing like a bunch of damage, and then you get like 3 accuracies, and you're like, okay, I have to block the brace, I have to block the redirect, I'm trying to pile as much damage as I can. Well, with XI7s, XI7s and SW7s, I just look at those accuracies. I go, you have one brace token and no other like meaningful, like you don't have a salvo. I don't need to worry about anything else. I block the brace and everything else is damage. I think against Paul, I rolled 4 blue accuracies and a red accuracy. And I went, okay, so I block your brace, and then these 4 are just going to be extra damage. And so, like, normally that's just like, oh, that's maybe if I have like leading shots, I can re-roll these blue and see if I can get something out of it. But I was just like, that's just free damage.
Yeah, and I think it's like a uniquely SSD upgrade.
Yeah,
because
I think so.
If you don't take it, like, you should take Pittix.
PDICs,
right?
Yeah. Yep.
Like a normal ship or a Star Destroyer or anybody else. But the SSD is like, well, I can't take Pittix, so I'm just gonna combo these and make it the worst thing on the planet.
Well, I
I love SW7s, but all the ships in Rebels don't have high enough dipools to get it to critical mass where it really just pops off.
Yeah, not when you have Pittix, and right, it's just a free V token every single attack.
Oh, it's so PDICs is too good.
Yes.
I feel like at this event I had more rules questions than I have normally had, and I want to touch on one in particular that came up in 2 of my games, but I also want to ask Reuben what all he was asked so that some of the newer players get an idea on some of the more confusing aspects. The first thing that I want to touch on is the rule about overlapping ships if you would be overlapping multiple ships.
Yep, I had a few rulings on that.
Oh, wow, we got Krabick here. Thank you for joining us today.
Wow.
PDIC is perhaps the most OP card in the whole game.
Yeah, it's underpriced and overperforms. And it's in it should be a defensive retrofit or something different.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
It's not an
if you kept it at 4 points, make it defensive.
Now, I'm gonna be the PDIC defender in this one, which is weird for me because everyone knows exactly how much I hate PDICs rolling my black hate crits off of my torpedo frigates. But specifically for the squadron matchup, I think it is a integral card to the balance of the game right now. Because if you don't have it, like, sure, it's too strong, right? But there are so many other squadrons, Merrick, Jindon, Vader, Dash Rendar, Lando, like all of these bombers, ARC 170s, they're so efficient at reducing large base ships. And if we look at how the fleet composition has changed over the past 2 or 3 years since it's been released, we're seeing large ships become more viable and squadless play become more viable because of this upgrade, which I think, personally, is a positive for the game. Now,
I don't know. At minimum, you got to double it.
Well, I got to throw in here because I know you guys can't see the chat, and I can see the chat, and Krabick has suggested a combo card that uses both defensive retrofit and another slot for PDIC as a balancing factor.
I like that idea. I like it a lot.
Maybe. I would be fine, and I understand why it works that way because point defense cannons are there for anti-missile, anti-stuff like that. But like point defense ion cannons working at close range against ships, I think is a big complaint people have because like it makes black ship criticals really hard to pull off. So if they made it against squadrons only, I think that would fix a lot of the complaints with it because it does kind of like I understand like it makes Bomber Command Center kind of pointless because
that's what I say. It's the same. It needs to be at minimum the same price as BCC because it overrides it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure. I could see that. Yeah,
but jumping back to the rules question here. What I had happen twice was a collision with ships to where my ship could not complete the move and it would have hit 2 ships during the completion of the move. In fact, it would have tried to occupy a space that both ships occupied. So the first part is, of course, it's going to come back to the point where it can have a space that it occupies. But then the question was, where does the damage go?
So the damage goes to the closest ship physically at its final legal location. So envision your maneuver tool as you're moving, right? So you go 2 clicks this way, and you overlap the enemy, like 2 enemy ships, like a Gazanti coming this way and the ISD. You have to click back on the tool, and it's important to keep the tool on the table as you're doing this so that you remain in an accurate game state. Take your ship back until it does not overlap any other ships, and that is its final position. And from that final position, measure what the closest ship that was overlapped is, and that is the other ship that is dealt a face down damage card in addition to the ship that overlapped.
And that happened to me in back-to-back games. I had to call him over twice to go through this so that, my opponents could understand what was going on. And, Jeff is pretty experienced, so it was kind of interesting having him come over for that. But what were some of the other questions that you got asked, Reuben?
Real quick.
Yeah.
So I wanted to jump in. One last thing. If anybody has confusions, just to clarify, the final position of that maneuver tool is also where the only time you resolve obstacles overlapping or squadrons overlapping.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you had an illegal maneuver, but you were on the station at that illegal maneuver, you don't resolve any of that until you get to the final position, like Reuben said.
Okay.
I just wanted to put that in there as well.
It's like you're pretending your ship is flying forward along the tool, and it's just where you bump into something first.
That's a good way to visualize.
That's how I always think that.
And that's
like you're just pretend you're flying it.
That was the way I had visualized it. Were there any other interesting questions that you got asked, Reuben?
Yeah, so I had a couple other interesting ones that are some finer points of the rules that I actually had to look up some stuff for, and I haven't had to do that in a long time. It's interesting when you're judging a tournament. So when you're judging a tournament, you're like the scary guy, and you have to give off the scary guy vibe. So, you've got to have that gravitas, right? Because you're like, oh, this is a big deal. We're playing an Armada tournament, guys. There's a ticket on the line.
I'm sorry,
fun allowed up here.
You don't scare me until you put a Starhawk on the table.
Right. So you've got to walk around the tables. So there's two different ideas to this. You can be like a passive judge where you kind of hang out in one spot and you're just watching top tables. And then if someone calls you, you go and you go check it out. And then there's more active judging where you're patrolling the tables. You're talking to your players. You're watching the games as they play. It doesn't matter if it's table 9 or table 1. You respect each game as its game, and these players are all competitors, so they all deserve to be respected as competitors. And that's how I tend to approach judging, especially for an event like this. And I really wanted to give people that won't ever have that experience of that world's level quality, specificness, and competition and camaraderie at the local level. And that's why I approached the tournament how I approached it, because I wanted to give people that feeling of oh man, this is what it feels like to play Armada, where the stakes are high and the competition is fierce and victory is so sweet, right? Rulings in that kind of environment split to two different really weird, far-reaching sides, because you get a lot of stuff where it's brain dead simple question, you go yes, no, or you measure, you go in, out, medium, short, right? And then sometimes you've got those intermediary ones where you're okay, I have to be really, really precise about this specific measurement because of what's on the line. And boarding troopers is a great example of because when you're at round 3, it's high stakes. There's a ticket on the line for this. So it's my job to make sure the rules are enforced and the game state is preserved to its most accurate level. And that's what I'm there to do as a judge. And so those accurate measurements to make sure the game resolves as appropriate. And on the other side of games resolving as appropriate, because I am the person managing the clock and the discipline and timing of the tournament, for me and how I approach Armada, I think it is only fair that every game goes to its natural conclusion, which is turn 6. So I'm very specific about clock. And I unfortunately had to give a lot of general warnings to tables about, look guys, you've got 2 hours and 15 minutes. It is in your favor to complete your game to 6 rounds. Play.
Yeah,
And
slow play.
I saw it a lot out of
Yeah.
squadrons, and I don't think it's anything intentional. I think it's all about squadrons, right? So like even an experienced player, when you're playing that 134 matchup, if you haven't seen it and you're like really well drilled playing against it, man, it's a massive amount of mental load. And you get engrossed in it, right? Because you're like, oh, this is distance one here. This is distance one here. Can I move around and attack his squad ball from this angle? And then suddenly 45 minutes is gone and it's round one and you're just ending. And then I'm standing there going, guys, you need to increase your rate of play. You've spent 45 minutes of 2 hours and 15 minutes on round one.
Yeah,
Let's
and
get it on, guys.
it's not just the squadron players, right? It's the people the squadrons are playing against too. Because let's say you're attacking a ship. If you got 6 squadrons attacking a ship, each time a squadron rolls a dice, the other player then has to go through all the mental math of defense tokens, and
Yep.
then all of a sudden it's compounded, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have
So
to
those
say,
were
I was lucky on Sunday, and every one of my games actually got the full 6 rounds. I was really pleased.
Yeah, and that's what I want. And the reason I was so like adamant about it at the tournament in my judging was because that's what everybody wants. You want every 6 rounds to try and get every point that you can get so you get the best score possible for your skill level at the game. Uh, the 2 weirdest rulings. The first one is what happens when Sato shoots an APT's ship with precision strike, but that ship is dead because of Riken, right? I never even considered that this was a thing that could exist.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I went, whoa, what? Okay. And then I went and read the Karn.
Zombie ship points.
Yeah, zombie ship points. So per the like interpretation of those rules, the ship remains on the board as a piece that can be targeted until the status phase of the turn where it is removed from play.
Yeah.
Therefore, a ship with APTs can shoot that ship that's already dead, has been assigned the damage cards up to its hull value, and result the critical effect for precision strike tokens. So keep that in mind. Like it's first time I had ever even conceptualized that that was the thing, but it's a thing.
Yeah, I think the roughest thing about tournaments, if you're following strict rules and making sure that everything's legitimate, is everybody's timing of when things occur. Because, like, if you activate a ship, and I did this like a couple times, like I'll forget to do like an engineering thing before squadrons happen, right? If technically once you pass that, it's over. You can't go back and do it. Same with like refreshing things or getting tokens. So it always feels bad to call the other person on it, right? And it happened in my first game with Damon. He shot at Anakin, and I forgot to counter, and then he shot Anakin from a different squadron, and then I remembered to counter. But I was like, oh,
It was too late. Yeah.
I think
can't get my first counter.
I think I'm going to need you guys to explain this comment to me. Sometimes in cases like precision strike, it's beneficial to fly your ship off the board deliberately. I had to do that once in order to deny my opponent victory points.
Yeah. So let's say this happened 2 tournaments ago. I don't remember where I was, but somebody had a ship that I had. I think it was 5 Arc 170s behind, and I was just sitting there farming off that ship. And had it been in a position to where it was a small ship worth maybe, I don't know, it was a flotilla, I think. No, it was a hard sell, which is like 40-ish points. Had it flown off the board, it would have denied me like, what is that?
So if it flies off, off the board, then the opponent
points.
does not get the points.
They get the ship points.
Right, I would have just not got the ship points plus all the
tokens.
The tokens
so here's
for
the
the victory
explanation,
token.
Chris.
Okay.
Second player, when they're playing precision strike, well, technically any player, when you do a critical to a ship, instead of doing the standard critical effect, a ship or squadron may instead resolve a critical where they choose one of the face down damage cards on the target ship, turn it face up to reveal its effect, and gain a victory token.
Okay. I get it now.
Yeah.
And the same thing can happen in, I think it's superior positions.
Yeah, superior is the other one. That it's a big, like, you can make a point pinata
Yeah. Just
shooting
leave,
in the
just
rear
leave
arc.
the field. Jump off the
Gotcha.
table.
Well, I got
So-
one more thing that I want to
Sure.
talk about since we're getting a little bit close on time here, and this is probably going to take a few minutes to go through. We are on Thursday Night Armada. We are going to be starting Rebellion in the Rim this Thursday. I don't know that we're actually going to have a game played, but we are going to get some cameras set up and have us discussing the terms and how we're going to get everything set up, and hopefully we'll have all the teams out there.
Hopefully. We could probably put like the map on stream and like do the like first setup and like put down the bases and do that kind of stuff. I've been like reading the rules 3 or 4 times. I'm really excited because this is the first time I've actually done something that's like intentionally we're having an off season, and that's kind of like um, me stepping into a more expanded role as like Kentucky's Armada guy, right? Something like that, where I want to like
Don't get too
build
carried
more
away, the Reuben.
community. Like, but like,
So you and Nick are
If
going to
if
be the
anybody-
fleet admirals, correct?
I think
Or
Nick
is
wants
it-
to be, or Reuben wants to be the rebel guy, and I'm just gonna play in the rebels, and then I don't know who wants to be Empire's lead. Probably Nick.
I mean, I'd like to be, but
I think that's the smart play because I think you're probably the most experienced of the group.
Chris, you and I can rock paper scissors for it if you want.
It is all you. I just want to fly and blow stuff up.
Yeah, no, it should be fun. Right, I mean, the campaign is pretty simple. You start with a smaller fleet, and then as it progresses, the custom admiral you make like builds on his abilities, and then you capture certain sectors to like gain access to upgrades, certain upgrade cards for your ships,
and
like
strategic
slots.
assets.
Yeah.
And that's the part
Yes.
I'm reading about, and I'm I'm excited.
So it should be fun, and then it
I
culminates
have-
in a big battle at the end.
I have played it once before, but I don't know if we played the Ion Radio rules like we're going to be playing here. I love campaigns anyway. The idea of building up experience and building up your fleet over time is a lot of fun to me. Unfortunately, the one experience that I had with it turned out to be very lopsided because we had the two most experienced players on the Rebel side of the board, and then I was also on the Rebel side of the board, which, while I was very, very green to the game at that point in time, with the group's understanding of the rules and everything, my experience with other games actually really, really helped me out in being able to make an impact.
Yeah, I think we've got pretty even distribution of talent on both sides. So, and I think the fact that everyone's much more aware of how the rules in Armada work now, it'll go a lot better for everybody involved.
Well, and one thing I want to emphasize is that, like, we've been playing tournament prep, fine-tuning, playing the same list for 6 months now. I'm excited to sit back and play a more like thematic or like role play kind of like list. And so I think if we all go into it like with a more casual approach, just play fun games. I want to play ships that I don't get to fly because like they're not competitive normally. I'm not going to say what it's going to be yet because I don't know what we're going to decide, but I'm just going to throw a hint out there. I've been looking at the Interdictor Combat refit. So
Yeah,
Just
I'm just
saying.
excited about these green objective cards.
me too.
I've never
Yes.
played any of these. So
Oh yeah,
I wanna
I
see-
know they are interesting.
I want to
something
see a
different.
station shoot
Effects.
something. So
I'm gonna have to figure out Rhodian names because my commander's gonna be Rhodian. I'm dead set on it. It's what's gonna happen.
That's all right. Our military fans will appreciate the fleet that I ran the first time I ran it because I was running a very fighter-based fleet, and my admiral I named Nim Itz.
Oh, that's funny. I don't know, I think there's stuff like low morale cards, low fuel.
Low fuel. You can
Yeah.
use map tokens to like say, don't attack this area. Like
Yeah.
the board, like the map strategic part of this, I'm really looking forward to.
yeah,
Yeah, now the unfortunate thing as far as how that's going to be presented on the stream and on the replays and everything, I've only got one camera gear set up, so you're going to get to see one game out of
Yeah.
all of the games that we do, but we'll try to mix up the players that we've got going on there. On the Imperial side, you've got myself, you've got Nick, you've got Jason's not on our side. We've got another Nick, which
Parrot
Parrot and
and your
Federico.
and Ethan, yes, Ethan who does our X-wing streams, so you'll get to see him more in an Armada role. And then on the Imperial side, you've got Reuben and Garrett and Jason and Jeff, which you've seen both of them on streams on occasion.
Yeah, I want to plug, like, if people want to play Rebellion of the Rim out there, I think it's cool because you can use ships and squadrons that are not good, and they are totally acceptable in Rebellion of the Rim, because you don't have to deal with a ship with 10 upgrade cards that make a generic TIE bomber useless, right?
Yeah,
because they'll Pittix it to death.
Now, I don't know about starting like your Armada journey with Rebellion in the Rim.
No.
But like where we're at now with a bunch of our new players, where we've had a lot of time with them, we've played games, we've talked about rules, like we've played a lot, and everybody has like a solid foundation. I think this is going to be so fun.
Yeah. I think Rebellion in the Rim is a good palate cleanser for if you've been playing a lot of tournament prep Armada. But I also want to put out there that Sector Fleet is something I would like to try if we ever get a chance to. Because Rebellion in the Rim is 200-point games, and so kind of like we were saying, like the upgrade, like you can get one upgrade on a ship, 200 points. I'm looking at upgrades I've never looked at before, being like, this might be really good here. It's a completely different game, and I think Sector Fleet's kind of similar, where you go to 600 points, and like there's so many more combinations and possibilities. So again, it's not something you want to start with if you're new to Armada, but like if you've been playing for a while and you're starting to get kind of bored of it, switch up the points, because I think it's a big, it's a completely different puzzle to kind of solve.
Yeah, no, I think Armada is you should always start, I think, at 300 points, no upgrade cards, just ships and squadrons. Always start there, 300 points. Because 400 points, I think no ships or no upgrade cards is too much, too many ships.
Too much ship, yeah.
Too much stuff.
I have actually, I've tried on a couple of occasions to do a recording of the intro scenario that comes with the starter box.
Yeah.
And it is honestly a really great way to really get your first experience in Armada. Unfortunately, audio problems or video problems have always kept me from getting the final product up on the YouTube channel. So
yeah, I don't know. I would push back now. I think there's, I think somebody with they're hard to come by now, but you can get a Chimera. A Chimera and somebody's MC80 is a much stronger way to start.
Put some X-Wings in there. Just give it to me.
X-Wings and TIE Fighters. I just think that Victory, Star Destroyer, and then the Nebby and CR90 is a weird way to start, in my opinion. Yeah. Mostly because the Empire player has one ship.
Yeah.
I think Reuben and I started with that, and like the Victory, I mean, it was kind of fun to fly because we didn't know what we were doing. But the Victory is a really good supporting ship. Or if you need to be a leading ship, you need a lot of support for it. And it just, I mean, I don't remember how that game went like 4 years ago.
Man, we had so many bell curves because there was you clobbering the shit out of me because I put CR90s at close.
Yeah.
And then I figured out that clicks are cool and naving is great.
And then I couldn't do anything about it.
And then man, I was getting my stuff updated from all the prize stuff, and I was reminiscent about all this, right? Because we've been doing this for 3 years ish at this point, close to it, and
almost 4.
Almost 4, right?
Yeah.
I've met so many cool people and done so much cool stuff, and I just love this game, and the community is amazing. And when Rapid Reinforcements 2 came out and Anakin was crazy, I really lost a lot of interest. But Chris, you coming into our group and getting us to Thursdays and getting us to Chaotic Good and having all these new players, every time it revitalizes my interest in this game that I love.
Chaotic Good is a creative space. Yeah.
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 Well, and I couldn't have brought the players out without you guys, and your instruction has been really, really great, and I'm sure we're going to have loads and loads of questions for you in the future as we all progress as players. But, you three have been the core of the group that has helped us get started there. I've only been playing, 6 months maybe, and I can honestly tell that the difference that between now and then, just based on a lot of the things that you guys have shown me and explained to me, and were patient with my stupid questions.
Oh, not at all.
We love the
Yeah.
game, so ask questions. We love talking about it.
Yeah.
It's all we do when we hang out with each other is talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, with that, I am going to have to close out for tonight. I want to thank you guys again for being on there, and one more time, congratulations to you, Nick, for getting your invite there.
Thank you.
And next week is going to be an X-Wing show, so I probably won't see you on that, but we do have you on Thursday, where we'll figure out how we're going to do a setup for the stream. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
So looking forward to it, and I hope you guys have a good night.
You too.
All
You
right.
too,
Take
Chris.
care,
Thanks
Chris.
again.
We'll see you Thursday.
Take care. So with that, I want to say good night and thank you to everybody who has tuned in. I want to reiterate that the video from the tournament will probably not be up until this weekend, simply because I've got to do editing and I have not had the spare time to do that editing. I have done some playback on the Twitch videos that you will see, and I am really, really pleased with the new mic that we've got. So that's going to be fantastic. Tomorrow we are going to have some Tuesday Night X-Wing, so I hope you guys will join me for that. Not entirely sure who we're going to have on the stream there, but we're going to have a good time as always. Then on Thursday, it's going to be a different Thursday Night Armada. We will probably be talking a lot about just how we're going to have the game set up, what kind of fleets the players are going to be running, things along those lines. So I'm really, really looking forward to this. The campaign, who knows how long it's going to go on, but you're going to see something different. You're going to see how different pieces work in the game. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope it encourages you to try it because, as I said, I've played Rebellion in the Rim before. I enjoyed it a great deal, and that was even with limited knowledge of how the game works. So we will be back here next week with probably the X-Wing crew, talking some X-Wing stuff. Not sure what it's going to be there, but we'll figure it all out. I will say good night, and I hope you have a fantastic week.